KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay, yay!
We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds for deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify with you and God in time my best align.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch, so you be in touch, please. You can just follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and I pop right on up fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app. We got some updates to the app. You don't want to miss out on the app. Have some fun with the app, the KBLA app. Download that. That way you can listen to us live or on demand. These days, you can even tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Subscribe. Did I mention subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast? That way you will never miss an episode. All right. Now, look, in a little bit of entertainment news, today was a big day. We know LA is an entertainment heavy town. And so you have to know that Beyonce, Kendrick Lamar, Sterling K. Brown, Ayo Edebiri, and more among Black talent leading in the 2025 Primetime Emmy nominations. The Griot is reporting that Black talent, including Beyonce and Kendrick, they stand to win big during this year's Primetime Emmy Awards on Tuesday. Just today, the Primetime Emmy Award nominations were announced with several veteran Black household names among a fresh new crop of talent and shows leading the pack. The 2025 Emmy nominations, of course, they highlight a wide breadth of Black talent from the stage to the director's chair. Beyonce has earned not one, not two, not three, but 4 nominations for her Beyonce Bowl Netflix special. Outstanding production design, choreography, directing, and outstanding variety special. Kendrick Lamar's buzzworthy Super Bowl halftime show has received 2 nominations in music direction and outstanding variety special, while Doechie's performance during the 67th Grammys has also earned her a nomination. And on television, Ayo Edebiri, she has made history as the first woman of color to be nominated for both lead actress and directing for her work on The Bear. Hey. And Sterling K. Brown led the drama contenders for his starring role in Hulu's Paradise. Have y'all been watching Paradise? I've been watching Paradise. And it's good. Paradise is really good. Cynthia Erivo, her guest appearance on Peacock's Poker Face, has also earned her an outstanding guest actress in a comedy series nod. Meanwhile, Abbott Elementary continues its streak with the ensemble, writing, and acting nominations as Shonda Rhimes' Bridgerton earns costume and production design nominations. The breakout hit Netflix film Rebel Ridge, starring Aaron Pierre, has also received a nomination for Outstanding Television Movie. And so go to thegrio.com and watch how they break down the rest of the year's Black nominees. But look, we showing up big time at the Primetime Emmy Awards. I certainly can't wait to see it. And I think especially just considering the state of the country, the state of the world, it is important for us to see artists creating art that offers us some escape, but also offers us some opportunity for introspection and also illuminate some of the stuff that maybe we hadn't thought about or hadn't considered. And so congratulations to all of the Emmy nominees, especially those that are in community with us. Moving along, Lupita Nyong'o. She is stepping out and making some news, rejecting the normalization of female pain while sharing her experience with fibroids. Now, I'm sure anybody who can hear my voice or is streaming this, you know somebody in your family, you know somebody in your community that may struggle with fibroids. Well, now you know that Lupita Nyong'o also struggles with fibroids. July is Fibroid Awareness Month, a time dedicated to shedding light on the condition that affects millions of women. And today, actress Lupita Nyong'o, she opened up about her experience with uterine fibroids on Instagram, saying, quote, "I'm speaking up about uterine fibroids. This is my story. This Fibroid Awareness Month and beyond, I hope my experience will resonate with anyone else who has ever felt dismissed, confused, or alone. And I hope to seek answers for the far too many women dealing with uterine fibroids. 80% of Black women, 70% of white women by age 50. She says we deserve better. It's time to demand it. Silence serves no one." So in a series of pictures, Lupita goes back to March 2014, sharing a selfie of herself moments after winning her first Oscar award. The actress revealed that the same year she discovered that she had 30 uterine fibroids. She had surgery to remove them. And when she asked her doctor if she could do anything to prevent them from recurring, she said, "You can't. It's only a matter of time until they grow back." And so the Office of Women's Health describes uterine fibroids as benign, non-cancerous muscular tumors that grow in and around the walls of the uterus. And as Lupita explains in her post, these fibroids can range from the size of a pea to the size of a melon and can cause a variety of symptoms for women, including heavy, prolonged menstrual bleeding, pelvic pain, constipation, frequent urination, complications with pregnancy, and more. And so we salute Lupita Nyong'o for having the courage to share her story. We salute all of the women out there who struggle with fibroids every single day. The discomfort that they cause, the pain that they cause. We salute you, and we want to do our part to lift up the cause of fibroid awareness right here on A More Perfect Union. When we come forward, we're switching gears. I'm really looking forward to being in conversation with Sarah Miller. She is the author of a book that folks are buzzing about, as they should be. It's called Hick, and it's the story of the trailblazing journalist who captured Eleanor Roosevelt's heart. I have it right here, and I can't wait to talk to our author friend, Sarah Miller. When we come forward, you're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
One like you. Yeah.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time. Whenever news breaks, while we're on the air, it's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580. And we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. And I thank you, thank you.
Exciting news, ladies. Always Discreet Boutique Bladder Leak underwear are now at a new low price. Protect yourself without breaking the bank. These fit and feel just like real underwear. Up to 0 leaks, 0 odor, designed for all shapes and sizes. They give you the confidence to be fully yourself. Don't let bladder leaks hold you back. Buy Always Discreet Boutique Bladder Leak underwear. It's now at a new low price. Based on suggested retailer price, only for packs above 16 counts. Pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online.
Uh-huh.
I read that Black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older, like you, are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
Visit WeTalkWeRise.com to learn more. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Hey, listen to this. All I needed was a new starter. Got a great deal on eBay. Did it myself.
Yeah, that's cool. But how about the soft purr of an upgraded exhaust when it fits just right?
For me, it's the little things, like these new windshield wipers from eBay I installed.
From small fixes to big upgrades, eBay has all the parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy.
1455 Frazee, San Diego. CordellCordell.com.
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests. As we effort to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to Streaming a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. And I'm really delighted to be in conversation with Sarah Miller. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let me just say this. This book is a treasure.
Well, thank you.
Oh my goodness. Who knew? I mean, there's so much to dig into here. But talk to us about what inspired you to write this story about this relatively obscure White House reporter.
I honestly can't remember when I first heard about Lorena Hickok, but I know that when I started to read about her, the interpretations were vastly different. The first biography to come out was in like 1980, and then there was another in 2016, and one says, oh, no, there was no relationship here. And the other says, oh, heck yes, there was. So I said to myself, wait, what? What's real? And I just wanted to know more. And the best way I could think of to do that was to read their actual letters between Hick and Eleanor Roosevelt. And so that's what I did. I just dove in head first to find out what was true.
I just think that is, what even made you think to look for these letters? For people who are less familiar, this book really starts with digging into these very intimate correspondences with Eleanor Roosevelt, who started, and it started with papers that were unsealed in 1978. And so, how did you even know to look for these letters in those papers?
I was lucky, I guess, in that when I became aware of Hick, that information was kind of floating out and about already. There was, I think around in 2000, maybe, there was a book of excerpts of the letters that was published. So I was able to kind of skim through the high points in that volume. But that book, for instance, will tell you that those letters are held in the Franklin D. Roosevelt Presidential Library in Hyde Park, New York. And you can, if you ask the archivist very nicely, they will let you in and you can read them to your heart's content. And that's what I did.
I mean, wow. I mean, so talk to us about how you summoned the courage to tell this story, because I'm sure there was a lot of people that said, wow, okay, I get that there's evidence that there was a relationship there, that there was an intimate something there. But we're talking about the first lady of the United States, someone who is thought of as sort of the blueprint for the modern first lady. I'm sure there are a number of people that might have said to you, do you really want to pull focus from her legacy?
Yeah, it's the story's there. The story's there in their own words. So I think that in large part is what makes it less intimidating when they're the ones who say, I love you, I want to kiss you, I want to embrace you. I'm not the one breaking the news exactly, they are. So that made it simpler for me to just present in their own words very often how they felt about each other. And how do you refute that?
I've got to ask you this question. It seems like an obvious question. I'm sure you've got this question a number of times, but what was former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, was she a lesbian?
This might surprise you. I don't know. I'm very comfortable saying that Eleanor Roosevelt was queer, to put an umbrella term on it, because it's very clear that she did love her husband and loved him throughout her life. He was unfaithful to her, and that broke to some extent their romantic bonds. And it's also clear that she was in love with Lorena Hickok. So that's what we know for sure. I don't know, with the plethora of labels and pigeonholes that people can fit themselves so nicely into nowadays, what Eleanor Roosevelt, what label she would have chosen for herself. But I think it's quite clear from the evidence that's available that she was not a straight person. She could have been bi, she could have been a lesbian, she could have been asexual. There's room for all kinds of interpretations, but I think it all falls quite clearly under the label queer.
And was Lorena Hickok, was she also queer, or would you say she was lesbian?
I would say I feel more comfortable calling Hick a lesbian because all of the relationships that we're aware of that she had were with women. And she had relationships with more women than just Eleanor Roosevelt. She was paired with another reporter for 8 years in the 1920s in Minneapolis. And she had other very emotionally intimate relationships with women while she was involved with Mrs. Roosevelt. And we can't tell, again, quite the exact depth and ins and outs of those relationships, but it's very clear that these pairs of women were in love with each other.
Very clear. On page 158 in your book, you write, the American people have no idea that they were seeing Eleanor Roosevelt through the eyes of someone who had feelings for her. Yeah. Hick and Eleanor's friendship and their growing affection for each other guaranteed that Eleanor would be presented to the reading public in a way that she wanted to be seen. Not only could Eleanor count on Hick to quote her words accurately, but perhaps more crucially, she could trust Hick to portray her emotions. Hick did that For the first time, Hick described what Eleanor was thinking and feeling rather than restricting herself to what Eleanor was doing. Hick put the reluctance that she had sensed in Eleanor for weeks at center stage. Her first article in the series opened with a breathtaking statement from Eleanor, quotes, "If I wanted to be selfish, I would wish that he had not been elected." Of course, she was married to the man who had just won the presidency, but there isn't going to be any first lady of the land, Eleanor insisted. There is just going to be plain, ordinary Mrs. Roosevelt, and that's all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You really let us into the psychology of Hick and Roosevelt.
Mm-hmm. And I like that passage that you picked out because it was so interesting to me to realize that for so many Americans, their first glimpse of Eleanor Roosevelt personally came through Hick, through the eyes of somebody who already adored her. And folks weren't aware of that at the time, but right out of the gate, she is shaping the public perception of Eleanor Roosevelt in Mrs. Roosevelt to her advantage. And we can absolutely debate the journalistic ethics of that, but it is a very interesting lens to see things through.
Speaking of journalistic ethics, were there ever any journalists that were sort of onto this relationship that seemed, at a minimum, very cozy?
Not to my knowledge. Because Hick was assigned to cover Eleanor Roosevelt during the 1932 election and following FDR's victory, to cover her all the way up to Inauguration Day, it seemed absolutely natural from the outside for this woman reporter to be at the First Lady-to-be's heels day in and day out. So that was exceptionally convenient for them. And I think the public just kind of became used to that very, very quickly. And nobody seems to have blinked an eye.
Not even the president. So let's talk about President Roosevelt. So the President Roosevelt, I mean, you're the leader of the free world,
Yeah.
right? The FBI, the CIA, all of national intelligence reports into you. Did he ever receive any intelligence, or, did he ever hear any rumors about Eleanor Roosevelt's relationship with Hick or perhaps with other women?
I don't know that offhand, but it's interesting to realize that, for example, there was a period of time where Hick was living in the White House and her bedroom was literally between the president and the first lady's bedroom. So she was the meat in a Roosevelt sandwich.
Oh, wow. Okay.
and we don't really know what FDR's level of realization about this relationship was. He was very accustomed to Eleanor being in company with queer women. She had at least 3 pairs of lesbian friends, long-term friends who were in long-term partnerships. And in fact, he helped Eleanor and her 2 friends, Nancy Cook and Marion Dickerman, to build a little holiday getaway cottage in Hyde Park for themselves, where they lived, certainly on the weekends at least, dormitory style in 1 bedroom. Their linens were marked with all 3 women's initials. So who knows? He called the place the Love Nest. Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, is this also sort of offering us some insight into, what might have been an unconventional marriage between Eleanor Roosevelt and President Roosevelt? I mean, we do know that, he suffered from polio. We do know that he was physically disabled towards the end of his tenure as president. And we know that for a lot of couples out there, when there is a loved one that may experience, a health event or may experience a disability, that sometimes that can change the dynamics of any relationship. And so was that the case for them as well?
I don't think so. FDR's infidelity occurred prior to his bout with polio, and Eleanor was very loyal to him all the way through that medical period when he was recovering. But his infidelity seems to have caused what friends and family called two courts to evolve around the Roosevelts. So Eleanor had her friends, Franklin had his. They were still partners. They were still very affectionate, very much friends with each other, but the romance kind of left. But they both had these outside support systems, so to speak.
Outside support system.
Okay, that's one way to say it.
That's a very, very creative way to say it. Oh wow! I mean, this is really just an incredible read, and we want to encourage all of our leaders, learners, and listeners to pick it up. It's called Hick, and it is about the trailblazing journalist who captured Eleanor Roosevelt's heart. When we come forward, I want to continue the conversation with Sarah, and I want to talk about what it took for Lorena Hickok to not just capture the heart of former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, but for her to capture the respect of her colleagues. I mean, this was a different time
very much
for women journalists, and she seemed to really meet the moment far ahead of her time. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Sarah Miller, author of Hick, when we come forward.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Chicago Public Schools is asking for community input on its $730 million deficit.
I want to welcome you into this space, and we welcome your voices. I think you could have been a lot of places tonight, but I know this is the place where we need you.
At a Southside meeting, interim CEO Dr. Macklin King addressed recent cuts, including over 1,400 jobs and 132 special ed teachers. Sean Diddy Combs is in federal rehab and violence prevention programs ahead of his sentencing on prostitution charges. He was found guilty on 2 counts, with prosecutors seeking 4 years. He remains in custody due to safety and flight concerns. And Black Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott met with Senator Chris Van Hollen, Black Rep Kwesi Mfume, and others to discuss federal support for public safety, housing, and opioid recovery. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
El Monte crash on the 10 eastbound at Valley Boulevard. 2 right lanes are blocked. Delays away from the 5. Upland, a wreck on the 210 eastbound at Campus. Off to the shoulder, you're on the brakes away from Mountain Avenue. And also, as you make your way through Industry, good news on the 60 eastbound before Azusa. A wreck has been cleared out of lanes, but traffic is still recovering all the way from Lorena Street.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
3 HBCU players were chosen in Major League Baseball's 2-day draft. The highest selection was Florida A&M catcher Brody Popple, who was taken in the 13th round by the San Francisco Giants. Alabama State had 2 players drafted, infielder Juan Cruz by the Washington Nationals and catcher Cameron Douglas by the Detroit Tigers. In last month's NBA draft, no HBCU players were selected. The Dodgers will have 3 players in the starting lineup for tonight's All-Star game: catcher Will Smith, first baseman Freddie Freeman, and designated hitter Shohei Ohtani. Major props to the National Hockey League. The NHL is donating $250,000 to Tennessee State University to help them start a Division I men's hockey program. The first season will be 2026-27. Tennessee State is the first HBCU school to start a hockey program. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay, yay!
JP Morgan Chase offers tips for the local business owners in 2025. Small business landscape is ever changing, and the Los Angeles market is no exception. A startup or legacy business, revisiting your mission statement and recalibrating offerings can renew opportunities for growth and innovations. Programs like Chase for Business Coaching for Impact gives entrepreneurs access to expert guidance, helping you streamline operations, strategize your growth, and navigate complex challenges. Businesses with a clear sense of purpose can navigate any challenge effectively, but also build stronger customer loyalty. Visit chase.com/coaching for impact for more information. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. If you're a guy facing divorce, remember, Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on.
1455 Frazee, San Diego. CordellCordell.com.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me!
National news of consequence, informed opinion, analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. I'm really delighted to be in conversation with Sarah Miller. She's the author of this incredible book that I have here in my hand. It's called Hick. And it is the story of a trailblazing journalist who captured Eleanor Roosevelt's heart, as in the former First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt. I really appreciate that. Before you even begin to dig into the book, you have this note about language, and you take the time and effort as any responsible author would do, and you say in Lorena Hickok's time, words to describe sexual orientation and gender identity were limited as well as taboo. And if Hick ever described or defined these aspects of her identity, that information has yet to come to light. The meaning of the words she did have at her disposal have also evolved significantly in recent years and will no doubt continue to evolve. These facts have led me to choose the present-day umbrella term queer to describe Hick and the other women in these pages who had same-sex relationships. Once a slur, queer has metaphorized into an inclusive term for any and all members of the LGBTQIA plus community willing to embrace it. And so thank you for that disclaimer at the beginning. I think it really set the tone in terms of your intent to make sure that you told this story in a way that also extended dignity to the two principal women involved, Eleanor Roosevelt and Lorena Hickok.
Well, I appreciate that, because it was a bit of a dilemma for me, because generally when I'm writing about a past time, and from essentially, through Hick's eyes, more or less. This is nonfiction; it's a biography, but I want to, put you looking through her eyes. And it was difficult for me to use modern terminology in that frame of mind, but it just seemed more appropriate to do that because, again, I don't want to make assumptions about how people identified at the time and or would identify now with a deeper and broader language at their disposal.
Talk to us about why you decided to start this book in March of 1933 at the Mayflower Hotel here in Washington, D.C. For all the history buffs out there, there are all sorts of very familiar places and landmarks that still exist. I may head over to the Mayflower tonight just to walk through the lobby, just to re-experience what you have written on the page.
That was a moment when Hick really discovered what a dilemma she was in, because that was the night before the inauguration of FDR. And she unexpectedly was invited up to Eleanor Roosevelt's hotel room for dinner. She thought Mrs. Roosevelt was going to be busy beyond all reason that night, of course, because, tomorrow's the big day. And to Eleanor's surprise as well, she found herself alone, asked Hick to come up, and they were both terribly nervous because the weight of the Great Depression was so heavy on FDR's shoulders. And the worry and concern that Hick felt even secondhand through Eleanor for her husband was just, it cast a pall over the whole evening. And at some point during that long night, FDR sent his inaugural address in for his wife to preview. So Lorena Hickok, who is one of the top reporters for the Associated Press, is sitting there listening to what's going to be one of the most famous inaugural addresses in history. And it doesn't even occur to her to think about whether she should leak the information to the Associated Press, because she is so enamored of Eleanor Roosevelt by then that the thought of betraying that confidence is not even on her radar. And she said of herself, Lorena Hickok ceased to be a reporter that night.
Wow. I mean, it's just a reminder of, how much history Hick must have absorbed. I mean, of course, we have the clippings from, the reports that she did publish. But there's so much that we as journalists absorb on a regular basis. Folks really just get to hear the stuff that's on the record, right? But there's a whole lot more. There's a whole other world that exists off the record. Talk to us about your decision on what to include and what not to include. Was there anything from the letters where you thought, wow, this is compelling, but I don't think it's my place to include this in the book?
There was never a moment when I said, whoa, this is too much. Too much intimacy, for instance, because it's the 1930s. I don't know if what we presume is missing because it was the 1930s and you don't write it down, or if it's because there were 12 to 15 letters that Hick held back from her donations to the FDR library, which were eventually destroyed. So is the stuff that would make your eyebrows go way higher, was that in those letters? Was that of a very personal, intimate nature between Eleanor and Hick? Did it have to do with politics? It was sensitive information. Hick said so herself, that Eleanor was not always so very discreet in her letters to Hick. Were those indiscretions personal? Were they political? Were they family related? At that time, 2 of the Roosevelt children were about to undergo divorce proceedings, and that was a tremendous scandal in the 30s. Just the fact of a divorce, no matter the circumstances, was going to be a big hullabaloo. So, I mean, I think from the tenor of the other 3,500 letters that survive, it's very fair to assume that it was too personally intimate between Hick and Eleanor, but we just don't know.
We don't know, but from what you did publish, we still know a lot.
We got some clues. We got some pretty good clues.
we know a lot more than we knew before. I want to talk about some of the politics because, again, in this beautiful book that you've written, you start off. You set the stage March 3rd, 1933, Mayflower Hotel in Washington D.C. Obviously, Franklin Roosevelt served several terms as president. There's a lot of history that was made over the course of this relationship with Hick and former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. Talk to us about any moment where it appeared that Eleanor was telegraphing the politics of a modern First Lady to Hick.
I think right out of the gate, Mrs. Roosevelt is determined to better the situation of women. And so, for example, between the two of them, they concoct this scheme where not only is Eleanor going to open herself to press conferences, which is unheard of, had never been done by a first lady, and she's going to do it in the White House, again, totally unheard of. And she's only going to permit female journalists to come to her press conference. And the reason for that is she had already learned from Hick how hard it was for a woman to reach that degree of, professionalism in journalism, to make her way through and past the men who were apt to elbow them out of the way. And so also in the Great Depression, women were more likely to lose their jobs than men because men were seen as breadwinners and women apparently don't have bills to pay. So they figured this out, that if only female journalists are admitted to the First Lady's press conferences, then if you want your newspaper to have access to her, you must either retain your female journalists or you must hire some. And they had that all figured out before FDR even took office. So right away, she's looking for ways to lift up those who have been trodden on.
I mean, it's just another example of how and why Eleanor Roosevelt was really ahead of her time.
Yeah.
And one other example of the former First Lady being ahead of her time was her involvement with the development of the United Nations as we know it. I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, and anybody who's ever been to the city of San Francisco, you know that there's a Bay Area rapid transit stop at the UN office in San Francisco. A lot of history there where Eleanor Roosevelt convened a whole lot of folks from around the world to participate in a session around drafting the UN Declaration on Human Rights. That was a big deal. We had never seen
huge deal.
A First Lady play a role with an international body in that way before Eleanor Roosevelt. And so talk to us about, how Hick was a part of that part of history made by Eleanor Roosevelt.
Hick at that time was somewhat in the background of Eleanor's life because she was traveling so much and she was so busy with these monumental political things that you see her very much as a support system for Eleanor. Hick is always there for her, just as Eleanor always has a safety net ready for Hick as well. But that was such a huge thing for a woman to do. They had assigned her to that committee number 3. Nobody told her what committee number 3 was, but they figured that's where she could do the least harm. So they put her there, and she just sort of finds her wings and basically does everything Hick has always told her she could do. You can write, you can speak, you have developed more after the age of 50 than any woman I've ever known in my life. And she just blooms and hammers out the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Wow, that is incredible. That's incredible. Sarah, in our remaining minutes, I want to ask you, in what ways was Hick an answered prayer for Eleanor Roosevelt? And in what ways was Eleanor Roosevelt an answered prayer for Hick?
They, despite their very, very different upbringings and circumstances, Hick came from absolute poverty And Eleanor Roosevelt came to, I mean, she's the daughter or the niece of President Theodore Roosevelt. She's very, very connected, very material plenty. But both of their childhoods were upended by their fathers. Hick's father was a very violent, dreadful man. And Eleanor Roosevelt's father was a very loving but very flawed man who struggled with addiction. So both of those men tore their families apart. And Hick always longed for affection, just as Eleanor always had. And Hick was so skilled at listening by the time she met Eleanor Roosevelt because of her 20 years as a reporter. That was her business. She was one of the most skilled interviewers in the Midwest in the 1920s. And Eleanor just marveled. She said, I never talked to anybody before, and it just ate her up inside. And so when the two of them meet, it's like lock and key.
Wow. I want to encourage folks to go out and get this book. It is a great summer read. And for all the history buffs out there, there's plenty here for you to sink your teeth into. For folks out there that enjoy reading stories about historical figures where you think you know everything about them. You know, Eleanor Roosevelt's definitely one of those people. We think we know everything about the former First Lady. I bet you don't know a lot that's in between the covers of this book. I want to encourage you to check it out. My thanks to Sarah Miller for being the doula that brought this story into the world. It's worth every page. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. The quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfiresupport@QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
An official message from Medicare.
I turned 65 this year. I knew it was time to figure out Medicare, and I had questions, like when to enroll and how to enroll. So I went straight to the official source, Medicare.gov, to get the facts about Medicare. I found answers to all my questions, and I'm ready to get started. And so can you. Just go to Medicare.gov to get the real facts about Medicare.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Sometimes an identity threat is a ring of professional hackers. And sometimes it's an overworked accountant who forgot to encrypt their connection while sending bank details.
I need a coffee.
And you need LifeLock because your info is in endless places. It only takes one mistake to expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. It's time for the quiet part out loud. And ProPublica, our friends at ProPublica, have investigated a story that I think we should be pretty attentive to. George Mason is the latest university under fire from Trump. Its president fears an orchestrated campaign. Now, George Mason University, which is just down the road from Washington, D.C. on the Virginia side, they are on high alert. When the Education Department's Office for Civil Rights notified George Mason University on July 1st that it was opening an anti-Semitism investigation based on recent complaints, the university president, Gregory Washington, said he was perplexed. You see, compared with other campuses where protesters had ransacked buildings and hunkered down in encampments, George Mason had been relatively quiet over the past year. He said his administration had taken extensive steps to improve relations with the Jewish community, had enacted strict rules on protests, had communicated all of that to the Office of Civil Rights during a previous anti-Semitism investigation that remained open. But by the next day, there were signs that the new investigation was a part of a coordinated campaign to do what? To oust him. One piece of evidence, the speed with which conservative news outlets reported on the Office of Civil Rights actions, which hadn't been publicly announced. You see, the Office of Civil Rights letter was embedded in a July 2nd article published by the right-wing news outlet, the Washington Free Beacon. And then the next day, the City Journal, published by the influential and conservative Manhattan Institute, ran an opinion essay headlined, George Mason University's Disastrous President. The article accused Washington, the university's first Black president and first-generation college graduate, of backing racially discriminatory DEI programs, referring to diversity, equity, inclusion efforts, and failing to address campus anti-Semitism. It concluded that Washington's track record warrants his resignation or dismissal. Why does this sound so familiar, you might wonder? Well, the similarities to recent events at another public university in Virginia were hard to ignore. The Office of Civil Rights George Mason investigation was opened just 4 days after the University of Virginia's president, James E. Ryan, announced that he was resigning to help settle a federal probe into the university's DEI commitments. That, of course, happened after a group of conservative University of Virginia alumni, the Jefferson Council as they're called, published blog entries and newspaper ads decrying the president, in part for focusing too heavily on diversity efforts and demanding that he resign. The council's connection to board members and Justice Department lawyers led many observers in higher education to conclude that Ryan's forced resignation was the result of a coordinated assault. I want to encourage everybody to also check out an article that was published by the New York Times on Project Esther. Project Esther. If you have a chance, go ahead and Google it. We've talked a lot about Project 2025. We haven't talked nearly enough about the Esther Project, which refers to, it's a policy initiative developed by the Heritage Foundation. And you know what it does? It aims to counter anti-Semitism in the United States by providing the strategic framework to address what's perceived as a growing threat. The project's name was inspired by the biblical figure Esther, who saved the Jewish people from genocide. However, the project has been criticized for its broad definition of anti-Semitism, which includes criticism of Israeli government policies and pro-Palestinian advocacy, and for its potential to suppress dissent and restrict academic freedom. So check what's happening to the president of the University of Virginia, and now they're coming for the president of George Mason University, a brother, the first Black man to be president of George Mason University. They're trying to get him out. They're trying to get him dismissed. They're trying to push him out. They're saying he hasn't done enough, and he's done a lot. We're going to have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village helps us produce a more perfect union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, Brother Andy, to our show producers, Faraji and Art, as well as our extraordinary intern, Journey Burris. I want to thank all of you for your good work, and of course, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners for your support. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and you've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
To unmarked cars, causing fear and confusion. 9 people were hurt in a stampede at